Okay, so this happened about 6 months ago, and I'm finally ready to tell this story. Names changed for obvious reasons, but everything else is 100% true. So, I'm a software developer, been coding since I was 12, went to a decent tech school, the whole 9 yards. 3 years ago, I got hired at this mid-sized company called Data Flow Solutions. Nothing fancy, but they handled database management for some pretty big clients. My boss, Derek, seemed cool at first. You know the type, talks a big game about innovation and disrupting the industry, but hasn't actually written code since the Bush administration. Still, he gave me a lot of freedom on projects, so I thought we had a good thing going. About 2.5 years into the job, Derek comes to me with this brilliant idea for a new client management system. He's talking about revolutionizing how we handle customer data, streamlining everything, making it more intuitive, all the corporate buzzwords. I'm listening to this pitch thinking, okay, this could actually be pretty cool. So I tell him I'll take a look at what we could build. Here's where it gets interesting. I spend the next few weeks researching, prototyping, designing the architecture. I'm talking about database schemas, user interface mockups, security protocols, the whole shebang. I present this massive proposal to Derek, calling it Project Phoenix, because it would basically resurrect our entire client management approach. Derek looks at my presentation for maybe 5 minutes, then goes, this seems too complex. Our clients want simple, not all this fancy stuff. Let's shelve it for now. I'm disappointed, but whatever, right? Happens all the time in tech. Projects get killed, ideas get shelved. No big deal. Fast forward 8 months. I'm pulling 60-hour weeks, basically living at the office, debugging legacy systems, and maintaining code that was written when dinosaurs roamed the earth. My wife Sarah is getting frustrated because I'm missing our daughter Lily's soccer games, school plays, you name it. But here's the thing. I'm also secretly working on Phoenix in my spare time. I know Derek said to shelve it, but I couldn't let go of the idea. This system could genuinely change how the company operates. So nights and weekends, I'm refining the code, building out features, making it absolutely bulletproof. Then, last Tuesday happened. I'm sitting at my desk at 11:47 p.m. Yes, I remember the exact time because it's burned into my brain. Finishing up some debugging when I get an email from HR. Subject line, position elimination, Marcus Chen. My heart stops. I open it up, and it's this cold corporate form letter telling me my position as lead software developer has been eliminated due to budget constraints and restructuring. My last day would be Friday. 3 years. 3 years of my life, and they fire me with a form email sent at midnight on a Tuesday. But wait, it gets worse. The next morning, I have to go in for the official meeting with Derek. He's sitting there in his fancy corner office with his $2,000 Herman Miller chair, playing with a stress ball like this is just another Tuesday for him. Look, Marcus, he says, not even looking me in the eye. I fought for you. I really did. But the board made the call. I'm trying to stay professional, you know? I understand. What about Project Phoenix? I just finished the final build last week. And this is where Derek really shows his true colors. Oh, about that, he says, leaning back in his chair with this smirk. I've been thinking about your old proposal, and I think with some modifications, we might be able to make something work. I'm going to take point on it moving forward, you know, fresh perspective. Fresh perspective. On my project that I'd been working on for months while he probably couldn't even spell database correctly. But I just smile and shake his hand. Congratulations in advance on your promotion. Because here's what Derek didn't know. I'm a very thorough person, and I had a feeling something like this might happen.
That weekend, while Sarah took Lily to visit her grandmother, I decided to do a little digging. See, when you work in tech, you learn to cover your bases. I had admin access to our development servers, and those credentials wouldn't be deactivated until Monday morning. I wasn't planning anything malicious. I just wanted to make sure Phoenix was properly documented for whoever was taking it over. Professional courtesy, you know? What I found made my blood boil. Hidden in Derek's personal folder on the company server was a document called Phoenix_proposal_final.docx. I opened it up, and I swear to God, it was my exact proposal from 8 months ago, word for word. My diagrams, my architecture plans, my implementation timeline, everything. But instead of my name on it, it had Derek's name as the project lead and system architect. This son of a bitch had stolen my work and was planning to present it as his own brilliant idea. But that wasn't even the worst part. I kept digging and found an email chain between Derek and our CEO, Linda Morrison. The timestamps showed they'd been planning my termination for weeks, timing it perfectly so Derek could swoop in and take credit for Phoenix without any interference from the actual creator. Here's what Derek wrote to Linda. Marcus is becoming a bottleneck in development. His perfectionism is slowing down our entire pipeline. I think I can streamline his approach and deliver something more market-ready. Linda's response? Handle it however you see fit. We need Phoenix ready for the Morrison Industries presentation next week. This could be the contract that makes or breaks our Q4. Morrison Industries. That name rang a bell, so I did some quick research. Turns out it's Linda's brother's company. This whole thing was a family setup. They were planning to use my system to secure a 7-figure contract with her brother's firm, and Derek would get all the credit and the VP promotion that came with it. I sat back in my chair, and for the first time since getting fired, I smiled. See, Derek made one crucial mistake. He assumed that stealing the proposal meant he understood the system. But Phoenix wasn't just some simple database with a pretty interface. This was 3 years of my life, thousands of lines of carefully crafted code with more layers and interconnected systems than Derek's tiny brain could comprehend. And I had documented everything. Every line of code was logged, time-stamped, and attributed to me in our development history. Every design decision was backed up on my personal servers. I had commit logs, design notes, even recordings of the original client meetings where I'd proposed specific features. Derek thought he was stealing a finished product. In reality, he was about to walk into the biggest presentation of his career with a system he didn't understand, couldn't maintain, and definitely couldn't explain in technical detail. But I could make it even more interesting than that.
Monday morning, while Derek was probably practicing his presentation in the mirror and trying to memorize my talking points, I was in my home office planning the most beautiful revenge in software development history. Here's the thing about Phoenix that Derek didn't understand. I'd built it with what I called verification protocols. These weren't backdoors or anything malicious. They were safety features designed to prevent untrained users from accidentally corrupting the database or causing system failures. Basically, certain advanced functions would only work if the user could demonstrate they actually understood the underlying architecture. Kind of like those prove you're not a robot tests, but for system administrators. I'd implemented these protocols because I'm paranoid about data security, and I wanted to make sure that if someone tried to modify Phoenix without understanding it, they'd get gentle warnings before they could break anything important. But here's where it gets beautiful. These protocols required specific knowledge that only the original developer would have. Questions about database normalization, architectural decisions, security implementations. Stuff you'd only know if you'd actually built the system from scratch. I spent Monday morning carefully tweaking these protocols. Nothing that would crash the system or delete data. That would be too obvious and potentially illegal. Instead, I created a series of educational moments that would trigger whenever someone tried to use Phoenix's advanced features without truly understanding them. The system would work perfectly for basic demonstrations, Derek could show off the interface, run simple reports, display those gorgeous data visualizations I'd spent weeks perfecting. But the moment he tried to dive deeper, the moment a client asked for customization or technical details, Phoenix would start asking questions. Please verify your understanding of the recursive relationship handling in the client hierarchy module. Confirm the reasoning behind choosing graph database architecture for social network mapping. Explain the difference between first and third normal form as implemented in the customer data schema. These weren't random questions. They were specific to decisions I'd made during development, stuff I'd documented in my personal notes but never shared with Derek because, well, he'd never asked and never seemed interested in the technical details. The beauty of my plan was its elegance. Phoenix would work flawlessly for anyone who actually understood it. But for someone trying to fake their way through a presentation, it would be a nightmare. I finished my modifications by Tuesday afternoon and pushed them to the main repository. To anyone looking at the code, everything appeared completely normal. Derek would have no idea that his stolen system was about to become his worst nightmare. The Morrison Industries presentation was scheduled for Thursday at 2 p.m. I checked my calendar and smiled. Lily's soccer game was at 4 p.m. the same day. For the first time in months, I'd actually be able to attend. Perfect timing. Thursday arrived with Seattle's typical drizzle. While Derek was probably sweating through his lucky presentation tie, I was sitting in my car across the street from Dataflow's office building with my laptop balanced on the steering wheel. I wasn't hacking, that would be illegal and unnecessary. Instead, I was monitoring the company's public network traffic, watching the data flows that would tell me exactly how Derek's presentation was going. When you build a system from scratch, you know its digital signature like a parent knows their kid's cry. At 2:03 p.m., Phoenix came online. I could see the system responding to requests, generating the standard reports, displaying all those beautiful charts and graphs I'd spent months perfecting. Everything looked smooth. Derek was probably feeling pretty confident right about now, maybe even cocky. Then, at 2:24 p.m., things got interesting. I could see Phoenix responding to more complex queries. Someone was trying to access the advanced analytics features. The system was working, but I could tell from the data patterns that my verification protocols were starting to kick in. My phone rang. Hello? Oh, thank God you answered. This is Jenny from IT. Jenny was always cool, one of the few people who actually seemed sad to see me go. Look, I know you don't work here anymore, but Derek is having some kind of crisis with Phoenix during the Morrison presentation. He's asking if you could come in and... Sorry, Jenny, I interrupted, keeping my tone polite but firm. I don't work there anymore, remember? I'm sure Derek can figure it out. He did say he wanted to put his own spin on the system. But, Marcus, this is really bad. The Morrison people are getting frustrated, and Linda is giving me death stares from across the conference room. Oh no, what's happening? It keeps asking me these weird technical questions that don't make any sense. Something about verification protocols and system architecture. Every time I try to run a custom report, it's like the system is quizzing me. I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing. That's the advanced security feature I built in. It's designed to prevent unauthorized access to sensitive functions. You just need to answer a few questions to prove you understand the system. What kind of questions? Oh, basic stuff, really. Like, what's the difference between first and third normal form in database design? How does the recursive relationship handling work in the client hierarchy module? Why did I choose a graph database for the social network mapping feature instead of traditional relational tables? Silence. Derek, you still there? Marcus, his voice was getting higher, more desperate. I need you to come in right now. I'll pay you consulting fees, whatever you want. Name your price. I can't do that, Derek. I don't work there anymore, remember? Company policy probably wouldn't allow it anyway. I paused for effect. Besides, I promised my daughter I'd be at her soccer game at 4 p.m. First time I've been able to make one in months thanks to my suddenly flexible schedule. Marcus, please, this is the Morrison contract we're talking about. 7 figures. If we lose this deal, I'm sure you'll figure it out, I said cheerfully. You did tell Linda that you could deliver something more market-ready than my perfectionist approach, right? This is your chance to show that fresh perspective you mentioned. I could hear voices in the background, urgent, frustrated voices. I can hear you calling for you, I continued. Better get back in there. Break a leg. I hung up and checked the time. 3:30 p.m. Perfect timing to head to Lily's game. As I drove away, I couldn't stop smiling. Derek was probably in there right now, frantically trying to Google database normalization while the Morrison Industries executives watched his career implode in real time.
I'll be honest, watching Lily score a goal was almost as satisfying as imagining Derek's meltdown. Almost. The weekend passed quietly. Sarah and I talked about my job interviews. 3 different companies had reached out after my LinkedIn update, all offering senior positions with better pay and actual work-life balance. Funny how getting fired can sometimes be the best thing that happens to your career. Monday morning brought a flood of missed calls and desperate emails to my personal account. Voicemails from Derek, urgent messages from Linda Morrison, even a LinkedIn message from someone in HR asking if I'd consider consulting for the company. But I had no interest in that. Why would I? I had 3 job offers waiting in my inbox, all from companies that valued actual talent over corporate politics. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. How did the TechFlow interview go this morning? I'd completely forgotten to tell her. They offered me the senior architect position, 30% raise, and full remote work. OMG, that's amazing! We should celebrate. I looked at the framed photo on my desk. Lily in her soccer uniform, grass stains on her knees, holding up her participation trophy with the biggest smile in the world. Already celebrating, I typed back. Want to come to Lily's practice at 6? I'll actually be able to make it. You know what they say about revenge being a dish best served cold? They're wrong. The best revenge is hot, immediate, and perfectly engineered to expose exactly who your enemy really is. Derek destroyed his own career trying to steal credit for work he never understood. Phoenix had been my masterpiece, but it wasn't my only one. And unlike Derek, I knew that the best way to build a reputation was one elegant solution at a time, with your name rightfully attached to every line of code. 3 months later, I'm working for TechFlow, building systems that actually matter, making more money than I ever did at Dataflow, and, most importantly, I have been able to spend much-needed family time and been able to attend all of Lily's school-related events and soccer games. Sometimes karma needs a little help from carefully implemented verification protocols, but hey, that's just good programming practice. And to give an update, turns out the Morrison Industries debacle was just the beginning. When word got out in the industry about Derek's spectacular failure, other clients started asking questions about their own projects. 3 major accounts pulled their contracts within 2 months, citing concerns about technical competency. Linda Morrison tried to bring in outside consultants to salvage Phoenix, but here's the thing. I'd built it so well that it actually didn't need much maintenance. It just needed someone who understood it. The consultants they hired charged them $200,000 to basically read my documentation and confirm that the system was working perfectly. Dataflow laid off 40% of their staff in December and got bought out by a competitor in January. Linda's golden parachute softened her landing, but I heard through the grapevine that she's no longer in tech. As for Derek, last I heard he was working as a project manager at a startup that makes apps for dog walkers. Karma's a bitch, but apparently she has a sense of humor. The best part, TechFlow just won a contract to rebuild Dataflow's client management system for their new parent company. Guess who's leading that project? Sometimes the universe has a twisted sense of justice. I love it.